Well, it's June 8th, July 8th, wow, at UCLA in Los Angeles, where it's a beautiful sunny day, where it's always sunny and beautiful. Today we're going to hear Sienna talk about a film speech that really moved her, and she's going to share with us 3 emotions that really moved her. So let's hear from, would you time please? Do you have an Apple i6?
It's gotta be a 6, otherwise the time I'm not gonna trust it.
That's right. We gotta be true to Steve Jobs, our hero. Okay, and we are rolling.
Okay, my name is Sienna.
Hi, Sienna.
Hi. Growing up, every time an ambulance passed by, my mom would say, "Look, someone's having a baby." And for longer than I'd like to admit, I thought that was the sole purpose of an ambulance, was to welcome a baby into the world. And of course, today I realized that was just my mom's kid-friendly version of a harsher reality. And I often come back to this memory when I'm trying to describe one of my favorite movies, an animated movie for kids, about an old man flying his house to Venezuela using nothing but balloons, where he'll meet a talking dog. And it's at its core because even though all of these kid-friendly elements exist, I think the movie still conveys an emotionally truthful reality of what it's like to be an adult. And so today I want to talk to you about Pixar's Up, a movie that made me feel a lot like I felt when I first realized why we really have ambulances. Heartbroken, a little betrayed, but also hopeful. In a 2009 review of this movie, famous critic Roger Ebert wrote for the Chicago Sun-Times that at its core, Up is about its characters' search for meaning in their lives. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that this is a struggle that we all are familiar with, and it's why I'm confident that Up will move you as much as it moved me. Now, the first way that Up moved me was to make me feel heartbroken. And the scene in the movie that makes me feel this way is when Ellie, Carl's wife, hands Carl her adventure book on her deathbed. And the reason why this brings me to tears every time is it reminds me of a time in my life where I thought I was going to lose someone I loved before we got to do all the things that we had promised each other we would do. Almost exactly a year ago, I got a frantic call from my mom saying that my dad had been hit by a car while he was riding his bike. And even though she was able to locate him at a local hospital, the doctors weren't letting her see him, which is never a good sign. So I jumped in my car and I drove the 5 hours north of San Francisco. And for the majority of those 5 hours, we were sure we were going to lose him that night. And the whole time, all I could think was that my dad only has one thing on his bucket list, and it's to go to New Zealand. And he still hasn't been. And so every time I see Ellie's adventure book and Up, I'm brought back to those 5 harrowing and heartbreaking hours driving north, afraid that my dad was going to die before he got to go on the adventure of his life. The second emotion that this movie made me feel was a sense of betrayal. And the scene in the movie that makes me feel this way is when we discover that Charles Muntz, the famous explorer and Carl and Ellie's childhood hero, and really the inspiration for his whole trip to Venezuela, is actually just a fame-hungry, murderous egomaniac. And it reminds me of when my own childhood hero kind of fell off of his pedestal for me and how that made me feel. I've always been a lacrosse fan, and my first professional game I ever went to, this one guy, Mike Regan, stepped up and won the entire game in the last second for our home team. And this turned out to be something that he was really good at. He was always the guy who was able to pull something out of his hat under pressure. And that ability to be dependable under pressure is something that I really admired and wanted to emulate in myself. Well, it turns out the guy was cheating the entire time. And when I found this out, I felt like I was somehow a fraud and a fool for having looked up to him all of these years. And like the best part of myself had been ripped away. And it led to this deep sense of personal betrayal. And it's something that I kind of see in Carl and recognize in Carl when he realizes what his childhood hero has become. And the third emotion that this movie made me feel was one of hope. And the scene that always makes me feel this way is when we see Russell at the end of the film, up for his Wilderness Explorer's badge ceremony. And he's all alone, surrounded by kids who have participatory fathers. And we think he's going to have to endure this whole ceremony alone, and then Carl shows up to support him. And the reason why this makes me feel hopeful is because even though Carl has lost so much over the course of this film, he's lost his wife, he's lost his house, he's lost his childhood hero, he's still able to find a meaning in his life by stepping into a new role as Russell's father figure. And this really hit home for me because after we brought my dad home from the hospital, it was really hard for me to see how weak and dependent he still was. And it was even harder for me to realize that my mom really wasn't going to be the caregiver he needed, and that it was going to have to be me. And originally, that reversal of our father-daughter relationship was really scary, and it felt like a huge loss. But then I realized that it was actually helping me define the next chapter of my life, and that as my parents age, they're going to need me to take care of them, and I'm going to need to provide that care to the best of my ability. So it actually reignited in me a passion to become a nurse, and gave me a real purpose and hope for the next chapter in my life. And so in conclusion, I have told you 3 ways that the movie Up has moved me. It broke my heart, it made me feel betrayed, and it ultimately gave me hope. Without a doubt, Up is a movie that packs an emotional punch, and reminds us all that even though the struggle to find meaning in our lives may bring us loss and heartbreak and a sense of betrayal, it's also the cradle of hope, and so it's a struggle that's worth fighting. So even though I can no longer pretend that ambulances are just for bringing babies into the world, or that Up is just a cute movie about a guy in a floating house, I have hope that those ambulances will save lives like my dad's, and that Carl and Russell will continue to have a lot of adventures together, and that I will continue to find meaning in my life long after I've had to give up my role as daughter or as a nurse. Thank you.
Thank you. Clap, clap, clap. Good. Thank you for waiting respectfully at the door while she completed her speech. What was the time?
5:19.
Sienna, I got you a little off. I was distracted by your speech, so I wasn't paying real close attention to the camera, but I'll try to do better. This is better. Okay. That's pretty good. Well, let's start in the rear. What did you like?
I think she got...
Start with your name, please.
Daniel Helper.
Hi, Daniel.
I think she got the structure really well. And I thought it was captivating to listen to.
Yeah. What was the time, sir?
5:19.
5:19. Good. She got the structure down well. Thank you. Improvement.
Hi, I'm Pedro.
Hi, Pedro.
And well, I really liked it, but if I had to say one thing, I think that you move like your hands a lot, and I think that's very good because it gets us in the story. But I think that maybe you could like move a little bit around because the story has lots of movement. But I really like it. So.
Thanks.
Okay. Sienna, you have a very great presence. You're very likable. You have a nice smile when you speak. Don't steeple like this. People think you're being superior to them.
Yes.
So, and don't hold your hands behind your back. They'll think you have a gun back there. I loved your charming introduction, and it was very endearing. Your mother said, another baby's coming. And and I like the way that you interpret it as her way of shielding you from reality of what ambulances usually mean. And I had a TA last year that also was an ambulance driver. And some of the stories he told me raised the few hairs I have left on my head straight up. My parents, who were religious, used to say a prayer every time they heard an ambulance just because they felt whoever was in an ambulance needed a prayer. So, different people react to ambulances. But I was pleased the way your mother shielded you from reality for a while with her story about someone must be having a baby. And that was a cute story. It was a good grabber, it was pleasant, and you sort of segued nicely with a little summary about the movie, and you got us very smoothly to Pixar's Up. You told us that it made you feel heartbroken, betrayed, and hopeful. So those are three pretty good emotions. And I thought I was looking forward to see you communicate them. On the significance statement, did you give the Chicago Sun-Times, or did you forget and leave that out? I think you did. So give a full citation if you can. And but you did Roger Ebert, and he's a credible reviewer, and I think you had a good quote from him, and you said that you agreed with it, and that was good. Now let's go to the crux of your speech, the really important stuff, which was heartbreak. And you gave a brief setup. And remember, folks, it's to be brief as to what in the movie made you feel heartbreak. Just a sentence. That's where you can pick up time. And by the way, I would like you to, next time, try to edit stuff out, because you go at a good clip. And I'd like you to, I know you're just trying to get through it in 5 minutes, and you did, but at the result of losing a little of us being able to savor the emotions that you were communicating, because we were just getting into your heartbreak, and on we go, zipping along. So let's talk about your heart being broken by your father being hit by a car, and you having that horrible drive to San Francisco and not knowing whether you would lose him or not, and 6-hour drive, I guess it was, and you talking about his bucket list was he wanted to go to New Zealand, and maybe I missed it, but did you say in your speech that he finally did recover,
yes,
and he's kind of hobbling around? Did you say that?
No,
or?
I didn't.
Yeah, so I was kind of left in your speech with whether your father is still in a coma, crippled, around, whatever. So you said it here, but anyway. The one thing I want to say was you were feeling bad for your father, but I also wanted you to just stay focused on yourself about just, I was just freaked out and scared and heartbroken and frantic as I drove to San Francisco, not knowing what was going on and what the results were going to be and whether he was going to make it or not. That's the crux of the emotion you could have really relived and made us really feel there. Wondering about his bucket list wasn't, that was a little diversion, in my opinion. Okay, let's go to your second emotion, betrayal. You like lacrosse, and your childhood hero was Mike Regan. And apparently he's a cheater. I never learned what he cheated on. Was it drugs? Did he take steroids? How did he cheat?
He would, so a lacrosse stick, you have a pocket at the top,
Yeah.
and he would tie a certain knot so that his pocket would be much deeper than regulation allowed, which allows you, people can wail on you all day and it won't fall out. It allows you to pull off different tricks, and then he would slip knot it so you can pull it tight when the refs would come around.
Oh, I
so
see.
check it like that. So,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
So he was busted eventually. I guess it would have been kind of interesting to know about that. I know you weren't having a lot of time, but I would have liked you to again here focus on, oh my God, here when I heard the day I read the investigation or heard the word that he had cheated, I felt so betrayed. I felt so down. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that he had this slip knot and and this was my hero and someone I looked up to. And I thought, my God, if I can't look up to Mike Regan, who can it? You see, focus on that one emotion of that betrayal more and relive it and refeel it. Okay. On your third emotion that you communicated, this was your best one. It was a little cerebral, but very mature and very wise and very interesting. You talked about the idea, you set it up with what happened in the plot in the movie, and then you talked about role reversal with your parents, which everyone ultimately takes, when, you at least in decent families, when parents get infirm, then the children become the adults, and the adults become the children and have to be looked after. In decent family, unless they ship them off to a nursing home, out of sight, out of mind, I thought you were very perceptive in talking about the change in your father-daughter relationship, and I was very moved by it. I wondered how and why that gave you hope more, but I lost sight of the hope, but I was still moved by your story. So it was interesting. Go figure. Your summary, your conclusion, and your tie back were all fine. Okay? You said you wanted to have a stronger SIG statement. You said you wanted to have a better tie back to your intro. And you said you wanted to maintain the power stance. How'd it go?
I think I did well on the first two. I kind of lost track of the third.
Okay, what's the story with the power stance? Why is it you want to get out of it, or what's the deal?
I want to return back to it, because a lot of the time I remember to move and then retreat.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I prefer, and it's up to you, I prefer you finally end up back in the center of the room for your final summation. You ended up over to the left for the final thing. And I think the power center of the room is where you want to finally power out the end of the speech. So I would say go right for 3 steps, go left for 5 steps, and then back to center for 3 steps would be an optimal way. And if you practice that way, you will be doing well. You did a good job, Sienna. I would just say remember the lesson of felt sensing and focus on the emotion you're remembering and stay focused on that as you're communicating it in the stories you tell and future storytelling in your life. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Sienna, very briefly, while we're waiting for the next person to come up, which will be... yes, you can go. Can you stand up there another minute? What insights did you get from YouTube?
The links for the last one weren't posted.
Oh, that's right. So, nothing. Okay. So the question is null and void. Okay. Next we will hear from Pedro. The Telegraph. Yeah, we like that newspaper. Pedro stands before you, managing attention. She's reading. Communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. You can take a step forward. You look like you're kind of cleaving to the wall, like you're hiding from the audience. So always be, not too far from not too close to the audience, but again, not right to the back wall. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Benjamin Franklin once said that there was never a good war or a bad peace. Hi, my name is Pedro Perez Cuesta, and today I'm going to tell you about a film that actually I saw in the airplane when I was coming here. It made me feel so many things that I end up crying. So much that the woman next to me asked me if I was afraid of airplanes. So the film I'm going to talk to you about today is called The Book Thief. Robbie Collins from the Telegraph said, "The Book Thief, starring Geoffrey Rush and Emily Watson, is perhaps the most vapid depiction of Nazi Germany that Hollywood has yet cooked up." So, as you may know from the article, it's about one of the worst things, or the worst things that have passed in human mankind, World War II. For me, it was so emotional because it reminded me about my family history. During this speech, I will talk to you about the 3 things I felt, the 3 emotions I felt while I was watching this movie. First of all, I felt sorrow. I felt sorrow because the film is about this couple that lived in a small town in Germany during the Nazi era. And as many of the men during that period of time, they were called because they had to go to fight, even though they didn't share the ideals. This reminded me of my grandfather. As some of you may know, in Spain we had a civil war 50 years ago that ended up with a 40-year dictatorship. So my grandfather, when he was 20 years old, he was with the rest of his family home, and they knocked on the door and said, one man of this family has to come to join the army, because that's what the country needs. So my great-grandfather, his father was very old man and was the only one that had a job, so he couldn't afford to go to war. So he had to ask his oldest son to go instead. So there he went, my grandfather, with just 20 years old, to fight, not for his country, because he didn't believe on that war, but because of his family. When I was really young, I was first told this story by him. And although so many years have passed since he had to go to war, I can still feel the pain and the resignment he had in his eyes. So the second feeling I felt while I was watching this movie was anger. Anger again, because war ran in my family's history. In this case, my other grandfather, my mom's father, had to go to war too. So as you might know, when a war starts, especially a civil war, your opinion doesn't count. It just counts the opinions that the people in charge of your town or your city or the region you are have. So people came knocking to my grandfather's house, and he said, you have to go, you have to leave now your house, because the people in charge know you don't believe, you don't think, you are not in the political side that they are. So my grandfather had to leave with his family to the mountains. They had to leave behind their homes, they had to leave their friends and their jobs, everything. So they spent almost a year in a natural cave in the mountains. Friends and family went there during the night to get them food and clothes. So what made me really angry is that in this film, as many parts in Germany saw, German families that didn't agree with the Nazi regime, they pick up Jews and they hid them in their basements or wherever they could. So it was just seeing that this thing has been going forever, how people that don't share the same beliefs as the people in charge have to hide, leaving everything behind. And the last feeling I had, it was joy. Joy because in the film, at the end, this Jew that was hiding from the Nazis and the little girl that was part of the family survived. They survived, they made it through the war. And that reminded me of my whole family, how both of my grandparents that were in the war, in different positions and in different sides of the war, they made it. And I am the living proof that they had a fulfilling life and had the chance to live a life and make a family. So let's take the testimony of those who survived, who suffered war on their flesh. Because remember, there is never a good war and never a bad peace.
Thank you. Okay, where are we? I guess here, right? Or did you speak?
Not yet.
Okay,
Good or the bad?
You what?
Am I doing the good or the bad?
The good. We always start with the good. What we like.
Elliot.
Elliot.
I really enjoyed the stories. They were topics that usually are eye catchers. War is something that most people are very intrigued with, or it's something that most people like to hear about. It's like one of those gossip stories that usually gets attention, and I enjoyed the stories that you gave.
Okay, good. Improvement.
Hi, my name is Isa.
Isa2. Hi, Isa2.
Studying really hard. I was trying to look for the entire time something to tell you to improve on, and I really couldn't find much. I guess at one point I think we almost said and that was about it. Really couldn't find anything.
Okay, I'll find a few things for you, Isa2. Pedro, I like that you chose a quote that was appropriate for an American audience. Ben Franklin, you can't go wrong with him. There was never a good war or a bad peace. Give the audience time, let it sink in. It's a heavy quote, good quote, yes. You wanted to talk about a film that really moved you. I admire you. Most men can't say they cried on a plane coming to Los Angeles over the movie Book Thief. And the woman said she thought you were afraid of flying, so that was cute. That was a memorable introduction that got it all done, and you said you felt sorrow, anger, and joy. So that got it all done. The Telegraph, a good newspaper, said that this was a vapid depiction of Nazi Germany that Hollywood is, yes, cooked up. Vapid isn't a complimentary term. So you needed to say, I disagree with this critic. I thought it was well done. So you need to remember to disagree with the critic. Okay? Then, let's go to your emotions that you communicate. The first one was sorrow, and what I would like you to try to do next time, I know this is your second language and so forth, but just trust yourself, keep it in your pocket, try to not have notes, and just trust yourself you can do it. I know you can. Was sorrow. And you told us about the couple in the little town, and they didn't support the Nazis, so they were forced to, and all this stuff. And then you told us the very sad story about Spain and Franco, nice guy, wasn't he? And your grandfather being forced to join one of two sides, and fortunately he made it through the war. And what all of that, you saw I could really feel his pain and his sorrow when he talked about it. And so that was good. I would like just a little more elaboration, feeling of what you felt as you heard him talk about it. I felt pain and sorrow too, that sort of thing. On anger and escaping during World War II, you talked about your mom's situation, and your mom's dad had a similar situation. He had to leave and go live in a cave. Yeah, nice. And the way the Jews had to hide in caves or be killed or worse, Hitler was one of those guys like Franco, wonderful people, and that made you very angry. And I would have liked you to express it more and not be afraid to really say, it really made me angry that they had to live that way. I'm really just outraged at this, that people had to live like dogs and hide in caves. This is not the way humans should live and behave. So, on your third emotions, joy. Oh, and by the way, when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you kind of go like this a little bit most of the time. You never walk distinctly 3 times. A step, 2 steps this way, 5 steps this way, and 2 steps back to the middle. That will relax you and help you. So try to move distinctly 3 times next time. Your joy was they survived the war, and then you talked about the fact that your 2 grandparents survived, and you're a living embodiment of that, and that was very touching and very good. You skipped, here's something for you, he skipped the summary. Could have said that.
Oh, yeah.
You skipped the summary. So in summary, remember, you're going to build redundancy. So what have I told you? I've told you 3 ways the film moved me. Made me feel sorrow, anger, and joy. There should be no doubt in this room this film really did move me. So remember the words, say it again, of Ben Franklin. There is no good war or bad peace. Let's talk about your canais, Pedro. Your canais were to have a better intro and conclusion. I think you did. Be more fluid in your speech, and a better adaptation of the movement to the story. I don't know what that means.
Like
How'd that go?
me moving,
Moving more.
Moving more to communicate better.
How do you think that went?
Well, I think it went better than the last one, but not like how I wanted to be.
You want to move a little bit more. Okay, good. You're getting better, so keep up the good work and trust yourself. Just have a little card in your pocket. If you need to pull it out, you can. Memorize the 7 parts of the good story. Intro, thesis, sig statement from the beginning. Main body. And then summary, conclusion, tie back for the end. There's always a beginning, a middle, and an end to a good story, okay? So just remember, that's a good story. You did a nice job today. Thank you.
Because the time was 5:22.
5:22. Thank you. Okay.
I had the folder displayed.
Okay, great. Yeah, your self-evaluation. What did you get from watching yourself on YouTube?
Me?
Yeah.
I think it was like good in general terms, but the thing I did the worst is that I didn't have like a proper introduction, so in the conclusion I couldn't do it good because I couldn't go back to introduction because there was no introduction.
Nothing to tie back to, yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
I have
All right.
to leave now.
What a pity. Okay, let me just say this. I'm going to go over the PC, so watch the PC model on YouTube and models of it, and remember Monday we meet in the library.
Okay.
And so watch the YouTube model and examples of the PC, because that's what we'll be doing next.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, who's next? Have you done yours?
No, I think I didn't put a film review inside my.
You didn't what?
I put this film review quote as like an add-on. I don't know. Is that supposed to go in the speech or?
Yeah, it's to go in the significance statement. So you're an American, you're flexible, just move it now. Okay, would you like to go next? Would you like to go next? Would you like to go next? Okay, great. We're moving along. And the battery's running down.
The intros thingy.
Yeah, great.
Oh, and then also for the review, I decided not to say that part. Just like,
Okay,
I just
fine.
didn't take it out.
And when I don't have one, I have one. I wanted to show you. Well, I'll have to pull it out from the other class. But it's better to put your outline in Roman numerals. That's what I said in my communication to you in the email. 1, 2. That's what I meant by 7 parts to your outline. Did you have 7 parts?
I had like the name of each part bolded, but I didn't
Want
put
me
the
to write
actual
it?
Roman.
No, I can understand it, but I want it to look like that. Everyone, from now on, I want them to all look like this, okay? Yeah. Okay, she stands before us. Okay, I'm going to have to really adjust the camera this time. You can take a step forward. Yes. Oh, that's perfect. She's managing attention. She's communicating respect. Non-verbally, finding friendly accent in front of your name. Feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, my name is Deanna.
Hi, Deanna.
How many of you know how a lotus flower grows? No one? Okay, well, a lotus flower grows in mud and dirt in really dirty and difficult conditions. You would think that such a beautiful flower, it would grow in the grass or in like a nice, breezy place, but it grows in really harsh conditions. And this is a mirror to how we, as humans, are like lotus flowers. We endure difficult conditions to become who we truly are meant to be. Did you know in Buddhism, the lotus flower represents potential? That is what we are. We are flowers that represent potential. The movie Whip It is a huge and primary example of that. The main character, Bliss, is the example of a lotus. She reminds us of how much potential we have to become who we really are meant to be, despite the conditions we are born into or the difficulties that life may give us. The Miami Herald reviews Whip It as completely predictable from the first frame to the end. It is also utterly ridiculously entertaining. I completely agree with this. It's a really great movie, and in many ways it enthralled me. It made me feel frustrated, it made me feel happy, and most of all, it inspired me. The first way in which the movie made me frustrated is because of the relationship that Bliss has with her mother. Bliss's mom was an ex-beauty pageant queen, and so because she's older and she can no longer perform in beauty pageants, she tries to force her dreams down her daughter's throat, Bliss. She ignores Bliss's dreams and just treats Bliss like a Barbie doll. She dresses her and ignores her completely. She doesn't even care what Bliss really wants to do. This is shown in the scene where Bliss's mother finds out that she lied about going to SAT classes, and in reality she's partaking in roller derby with a team called the Girl Scouts. When she finds this out, she yells at Bliss and tells her she's ruining her chance of becoming a beauty pageant queen. And then what happens is that Bliss is so frustrated at her mother because her mother is not listening to her, that she decides to just completely ignore her and walk away. I felt like this a lot of the times growing up with my dad. One day I felt this especially when we were in the car, I was driving to school, and he told me, we got into an argument about the fastest man in the world, Usain Bolt, and how he could run 100 meters in 9.68 seconds. I told my dad this, and I was like, isn't that amazing? And he was just like, that's not true. And then I was like, yes it is. And then he told me, no, that's not possible. A normal man, like the average man, can only run 100 meters in 12 minutes. I was like, are you kidding? I told him that's not true, that's wrong. That's how it takes the average man to run a mile. And he told me, no, Deanna, that's wrong. Where did you hear that from? Your classmates, your friends? And I was like, no. And he was like, are you sure? He's like, Deanna, you need to start thinking for yourself. You need to stop listening to others, and you need to think for yourself. You have your own life ahead of you. That part was really frustrating because he's always telling me that. He thinks that I am the combination of my fellows' opinions, and I'm not. With him, because he thinks that I'm other people's opinions, he fails to ignore me and see me for me. The second way in which this movie made me feel happy is especially the part where Bliss's team, towards the ending, where Bliss's team, the Girl Scouts, loses to the Holy Rollers by a few points, but they're second place, and they're chanting, "We're number 2, we're number 2." I really like that scene, and it makes me so happy because I can relate to this very much. When in high school, I did track, and throughout high school, I kept doing the sport. There were many times when I wanted to give up because running is a very hard sport. It is very painful, emotionally because you want to give up and you want to quit, and physically because it can be painful because you can trip and you may have like shin splints or something like that, but you keep going. And I liked it because I had a sense of family, and I could see that in Whip It. She felt like she had found what she loved, and she was supported by people who really were there for her. And that's what I felt by joining the track team. I felt like there was a sense of family, and we all knew each other very well. It was a really small team, so that made it like easier to get to know everyone. And we would laugh with each other, we'd have a really good time. And that's what made track very durable. The last way in which this movie moved me was that it's a very inspirational film. It is inspirational throughout every scene, basically, especially the parts where you see Bliss practicing her roller skating, but every time she always falls. Or when she is like in the rink and then one girl like punches her, but she always gets back up. And to me, this is very inspirational because it reminds me of the times in my life where I want to give up. I want to quit because quitting is so much easier than keeping going. And I feel like it's easy to quit because you don't have to try anymore. But the movie Whip It shows you that you can endure anything, no matter what happens. And Bliss is such an amazing example of that, because whenever Bliss falls down or she gets punched by another girl, she always gets up. And that, to me, has inspired me to keep going in my life. And it showed me that in life, you have to keep trying. No matter what happens, when you fail, you always get back up. It just takes many times to succeed, it just takes many times to fail to succeed. And that you will only really fail if you stop trying. To summarize, I have shared with you today 3 ways in which Whip It has moved me. It has made me feel frustrated, it has made me feel happy, and it has most of all inspired me. Bliss, the main character, is a great example of how we are like lotus flowers and how we all have the potential to become who we truly are meant to be.
Thank you. What was the time?
6:32.
6:32. Thank you. Where are we here? Yeah.
I am Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. The best thing that I loved about her speech was the entrance part. Like, she was asking something to audience to grab their attention. And also, a couple of minutes later, she had like told her speech with her father, but
A story about
yes,
her
this
father.
story, but she told my father like this, and this, and she just, how can I say it?
She disagreed with him.
Like the role play between her and her
Yes,
father.
I was trying to tell you the role play part, so that's it.
Okay, thank you. How can she improve? Yes.
Hi, my name is Sienna. I really liked your
Sienna.
speech, but it ran a little bit long, and I feel like maybe some of your explanations of what was going on in the movie were a little long compared to the emotional content, but that's the
Right. And Deanna, take heed. I was telling one young man in the 10 o'clock class this very fact. Learn from the mistakes that others in class make. So if you find you've got a big long paragraph of a plot summary, cut it down to 1 sentence. You don't need it. You don't need it. Spend the time on your feelings and your emotions. Just as a point of when you print things out for me, so I have room to write. I don't like a page like this that doesn't have any room for me to write. You used every speck, every inch of the page. So leave me an inch on the side and seven part outline. Right?
Is it okay if it runs more than 2 pages?
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay if it runs more than 2 pages, and don't print on the back either. Let's talk about your speech, and let me give you some feedback to help you grow and improve. The first thing I want you to do, you can take your hands out of your pocket. First thing I want you to do is remember to move. You didn't move 3 times, and that will help you relax, and you were just a little nervous, and that will relax the kinesiology going on with you. Just your body was tense, and moving helps us relax a little each time as we move. You started with a really beautiful analogy of the lotus and how it grows in mud and muck and dirt and fish, and yet it's a symbol, a very beautiful flower. And you talked about its symbol in Buddhism of potential, and I like how you tied back to that, and so that was a nice ending. I thought when you watch yourself tonight, not in your written paper, but in your oral presentation, it was a little bit abrupt, your transition from your intro to your thesis statement. Try to get there a little more smoothly, if you know what I mean. You got there smoothly in the written part. So you chose to do the movie Whip It, right? And you said that it moved you in 3 ways, and you quoted I guess it was the Miami Herald, and that was fine. So the first way was you talked about that the film, that the movie frustrated, you felt frustration, and you gave a very long plot summary. You cut that out right away there, you get a minute. We didn't need all that SAT, roller derby, Hell Scouts, didn't need any of it. Really didn't need any of it. Bliss had a fight with her mother. Remind me of a fight I had with my father. Would have gotten the same results, see? And then we could have spent more time on it. So you told us about your dad basically having a preconceived opinion about where you got your facts, right? And I think one of the things that will help is if you have a citation for your facts. If you can say, well, no, Dad, I read this in the New York Times, and you can go home and print it out on your printer and show it to him and say, here, Dad, here's the fact that I got that your fella from Africa, was it, that ran the mile, was that where he was from, or Tanzania or something?
Jamaica.
Where?
Jamaica.
Jamaica? Yeah, ran the 100 meters in really a short time, and so, here, Dad, I got it from the New York Times, and then he'll have to, recalibrate where you get some of your opinions and information. Yeah. So, but and that was fine. What I wanted you to more focus on as you were telling the story is, as my dad was sitting there lecturing me, telling me I listened too much to my friends, I was getting more and more frustrated. And as he went on and on and on, I was getting more and more frustrated. And as he went on and on, I was just frustrated beyond belief. I want you to focus on the emotion of frustration more and relive it and re-feel it so we feel it too. See? You understand? Because you just basically said, my dad frustrated me. And we know he did. But I want you to re-feel it and do it. Okay? Your second reason that Whippet moved you was it made you feel happy. And you told us that you felt happy because you were part of a team. And I felt this, and you repeated that it was a small team, and you felt part of a family, and that felt good, and you felt happy when you were part of the small team family. That emotion of happy was well communicated. That was well done. Your third emotion was inspired. You left off some of the words you had on your paper, the stuff about Beckham and Billy Elliot. And your plot summary wasn't needed here again. And then what was really lacking was it would have really been helpful if you had a time when you had a specific thing that you were inspired by that you could turn to and show us and give us that feeling of being inspired, because that's kind of a vague emotion, and it was sort of vaguely communicated. I know that's what was said in the movie, and I know it inspired you, but I would like a specific instance of where you became inspired by the words of the movie would have been helpful. Okay? Your summary, your conclusion, and tieback were fine. Your canais. Be more dynamic. Don't say and have clear transitions. How did it go? Okay. What did you learn from watching yourself when you did see yourself on YouTube?
I saw that I need to have a louder voice.
Yes.
Be more present. And stop saying
What?
Stop saying
Okay. And how will you get a louder voice?
I feel more about being comfortable.
Uh-huh. Yes, and sometimes I say to students, almost practice yelling, and then you'll just naturally draw back a little from the yelling. Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Do you yell at them?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you can yell at them when you, if you can practice speaking in a yelling voice, then when you come in here, it'll just be louder. And that would be good. You did a nice job. Just work on focusing and reliving the emotions as you're communicating, and that will be more effective. Thank you. Okay, next. You want to go next since you have 2 to do?
I'm starting to feel one.
Okay, free country. Do whatever you want. Okay, wow, you're not even in the camera. Okay, let me refocus. No, don't stand against the wall. No, that looks like you're scared. I'll move the camera. Okay, good. Getting too much of the rain, huh? I think I can live with that one. No. So we can live with that one. Well, she stands before you managing attention. We have a position called the power stance, which is legs wider than your shoulders, feet wider than your shoulders. Yeah, a little bit wider. Wider, yeah. And don't sway. So kind of lock your knees a little bit so you don't sway. Make your audience dizzy. Let your hands be by your side. Let them gesture naturally. Okay? We look around the room, make sure no one's texting or on their computer. We say to ourselves, we respect our audience by saying the little mantra to ourselves, I respect my audience. Let's look at Deanne and say to yourself, I respect you. Look at Sienna. Boy, Deanna, Sienna. Wow. I respect you, see? And then they get the nonverbal vibration from you, just like Brian Wilson's Good Vibrations. You know the song? No? Yeah? Good song. I'm picking up good vibrations. You want your audience to pick up respectful vibrations from you. Okay? So, say your name, feel the love, start your speech. Start. Clock.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah.
Hi Sarah.
Though I'm an emotional person in my life, it's really rare for me to cry during the movies. But today I will tell you about a movie that has really moved me and made me cry a lot. The movie is called Marley and Me. Some of you have already know it. And I have tell you about my 3 emotions while I watched this movie. This movie has made me feel vivid. It made me feel the importance of being a family, and it made me feel sad. So I'm gonna start with my first emotion, which is I felt vivid during watching this film. Specifically, I was feeling vivid when at the scene this Marley called the dog called Marley was jumping around all the corners and in the house. So he was like more. Okay.
You're doing fine.
By the way, I just forgot to tell you about the summary of the movie. So.
It's okay. We all know it, so you don't have to do it.
Okay. So he was like jumped on his trainer, and the trainer fell down at the floor, at the ground, and his owners was like shocked, and this scene has made me feel vivid because I have also a dog, and she is called Kapit, by the way, and she is like so much similar behaviors as Marley. So while I was watching this movie, I felt the same with my dog, and so I was just laughing while I was watching the movie, and this made me vivid. And the second feeling that I felt during watching this film was understanding being of a family, understanding the importance of being a family. So in the film, the trooper, the ones that adopt Marley, has 3 children consecutively, and so they were like having so much hard times to manage them and to manage their lives and business and children, and also an additional responsibility of a dog. So they were like having hard times, and I saw that while I was watching the film. I saw that even they were having hard times in their life. So they did not give up on their responsibilities, and I saw the strong ties between the family members. So it was like important for me, and I felt the same with my family. So as I said to you before, I have also a dog, and even I have some hard times in my life, and also my mom and dad. So we know that we are a family, and we have strong ties, and we can like do everything and everything we need to do in life, and also take the responsibility of our dog. So I felt this feelings while I was watching the film. And the third feeling that I felt during watching Marley and Me was I felt very sad, because at the end of the film Marley was becoming sick, and he was dead at the end of the film. And maybe some of you know, the dogs have a general trait that when they understand they will be dead, they just move around move out the house, and they just
Separate.
leave. Yes, they keep themselves separate. And I believe that this is because of they do not want their owners to be sad because of they are dead. So at the end of the film there was a scene like this, and I was crying like hours when I saw it. So the main reason that I felt this way is it was like 1 year ago my dog was also sick, and I couldn't when she was sick I really cried a lot, and I couldn't imagine that what would I do when my dog was dead. So I couldn't imagine that, so this made me really cry a lot and made me feel sad. So guys, I told you about 3 feelings that I have felt while watching Marley and Me. So there should be no doubt in this room that this film moved me this much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Where are we? Where are we? I guess we're in the back. Yeah. What'd you like?
Daniel Halper.
Hi, Daniel.
I liked your stories, especially the last one. That's just something I relate to also. So yeah.
Yeah. Good, Daniel. Thank you. Improvement. Stay in the power stand. Feet wider than your shoulders. Yeah.
I'm Elliot. I had difficulty following you with the emotions because I really didn't understand what family or vivid is like as an emotion. That you could have captured that a bit more, like picking more emotional stuff. Like sad is a true emotion, but I wasn't sure how family is a real emotion. I also didn't remember the review, and like the tie back could have been a bit better.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about. Sarah, I like what I liked, and I'll give you some ways to improve. I like that you came into the class late and just jumped into the speech. You did it without notes. Very good. You have a good command of English. You're confident. You have great poise up there. You didn't cry or freak out when you stumbled. You just kept it going. That was wonderful. I think that, Ali, did you get my email, by the way?
Did you email me back? I got your email and I emailed you back.
Did you bring your computer?
I emailed you back that I don't have a computer.
Oh, God. Okay, well, you're stuck then. Okay, that's your tough luck. Yeah, because I can't download a single speech. I have the rule with our department is I have to have 30 minutes of stuff.
Can you email it?
No, I can't email these speeches, but so you can watch it. You can come to my office and watch it during office hours if you want to. I didn't get it back because, as I told you,
Spam.
Yahoo is spammed by UCLA. So, okay, back to reality. Sorry. Okay, did you get my email? Yeah. No?
Regarding what?
Well, about having a 7-part outline. No. Yeah. The prompt had 7 parts, and so you have
I have put some stars.
stylistic. You have
Yes.
1 paragraph. You don't have. Yeah. So it's helpful and for memory to have 7 paragraphs with Roman numeral 1 intro. That'll remind you to have an introduction, thesis preview, 3 significant statement with a little film review, 4 the main body, the 3 emotions, 5 the summary, 6 the conclusion. You got the conclusion beautifully. There should be no doubt in this room. That was good. And then the tie back to your emotions. So you said, I'm not an emotional person. It's rare for me to cry at movies. In my entire life, I can tell you that there are a couple movies that made me cry. So you're saying you're kind of a real rational person. You're kind of setting that up. I guess that was your introduction, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sort of a self-observation. That was okay, but it wasn't a poem, a quote, a story. It wasn't a real grabber. I guess it was sort of an arresting fact. I don't cry at movies. I'm a machine. That's fine. You can say that. But you need to tie back to that. At the end, you need to say, so I don't cry at movies. But Marley made me cry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you started with, remember his Ben Franklin quote, and then he went back to Ben Franklin in the end, that was good. See? The way she tied back to the lotus. Started with the lotus, ended with the lotus. See? That's why I'm looking for a real vivid image at the bookends. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So I think we just have some translation problems with your first emotions. I think what she says vivid, I interpreted to mean you just felt intense, right?
Yes.
It got you in feeling intense. You related to it intently.
Yes.
Kind of just a general intense emotion.
Yes, actually,
Yeah.
I had a story in my assignment about this
Yeah.
real barbecue thing, but I was a little nervous,
So you didn't put it in, yeah.
Yes.
And we jumped on the trainer, and it was a comic scene. And one day, my naughty dog ran out from our home to our neighbor's garden, and she ate all the meat. And that would have been kind of a vivid memory that you remembered, and made you feel nostalgic. Would have been another word you could have maybe used there for what it reminded you of. But I kind of knew what you mean. But I think what he was trying to say to you, maybe I would say to you, is that when you want to go for communicating emotion, you want to laugh, cry, smile, sad. Those are easier ones to communicate than vivid. And vivid is kind of a color, right? Like your shirt is vivid. right? Yeah. The second emotion, you called it the importance of family. And I think, again, where's the emotion in that? Is that, what's the emotion there? See? So it was a good story, though, and I like you talked about responsibility with the dog, and it's the same thing that you had. Your third emotion was your best one, sad, and I felt genuinely sad that you almost lost your dog, and you relived it and you felt it. So you understood the assignment of felt sensing, and that was good. That's how you do the assignment. I just wish you had done it more effectively on the first two. Okay? I want you to do it more like this next time, okay? See how that paper looks?
Mm-hmm.
With headings and okay, like that. Paragraphs, yeah, not just one stream of consciousness, yeah. And your summary, I've told you 3 ways the film moved me. In conclusion, there should be no doubt this film moved me, and then tie back. What were your canais or goals? You had 3, always have 3 goals. What were your goals? Speaking goals.
Well, I have lots of things to say about what I can improve.
Yeah.
First of all, I should have been much more fluent, and while
More what?
fluent.
Fluid.
Yes.
Yes.
And while I was doing my speech, I shouldn't have stopped and say, I should have told you about the summary of the film. I shouldn't have done this.
Yes. Uh-huh. Right, don't call attention to errors, in other words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Stand the power stand.
And thirdly, my introduction and summary part would be...
Yeah, better introduction and tie back, yeah. Okay, good. Have you started to read the text yet? Textbook?
No.
Book? Yeah. One of the things the book talks about is having an introduction, and sometimes it can be a surprise, something that shocks the audience. In the 10 o'clock class, a girl started with the word sex. You know, she goes, "Don't you all love it?" Everyone kind of woke up, you know. She goes, "So now that I have your attention, let me talk to you about a movie that really moved me." And she talked about Don John or Don Juan. It's Don John. Don Juan. Okay, there went the camera. Yeah. See, these tall people, they don't work out. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. Something like that, but a poem, a quote, a story that really will grab your audience will work very effectively, okay? You did a nice job. Thank you for the courage. You did beautifully. You're here. You know, English is your second language. You did beautifully. Thank you.
Okay.
Professor time was 5:27.
5:27. Okay, good. Okay, next. Ooh, okay, let's see if we can get you in on this one. What do you think? We're going to get lucky? We'll get lucky. Let's see if we get lucky.
Good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, take a step forward, please. Yeah, you look like you're hanging toward the wall. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
So the beauty in life is the challenge of being able to remain optimistic even when things go bad. Today I want to share with you guys a film that really moved me, and this was The Good Will Hunting. It moved me in 3 ways. It made me feel inspired, it made me feel happy, and it also made me feel sad. Roger Ebert stated that it's heartbreaking when genius doesn't recognize itself. And it's even, and this is the barring question inside Good Will Hunting. his inability to realize for himself how smart he is and how capable he is and all the agency that he has. The first way that this film moved me is that it made me feel inspired. The scene that made me feel inspired is when Will was able to solve the problem that took years for a professor to solve, and he still wasn't even able to solve it to that day. It made me feel inspired in that a high school dropout could solve this problem with no form of higher education. And the reason why it made me feel inspired is because I myself have been told plenty of times that I was capable of doing more than I was doing, that I was always doing a half job in whatever it is that I was doing. I never had enough faith in myself, and people out there always had more faith in me than I did in myself. This film inspired me in that it showed me that anything is possible to achieve, whether you have the education or whether you have the connections, anything is possible. The second way that the film moved me is that it made me feel happy. It made me feel happy that he was finally able, Will, the main character, was finally able to move out of his neighborhood and achieve more for himself and actually want more for himself. The scene that made me feel inspired was when he finally left his neighborhood to move to California, specifically this Palo Alto area in Stanford. The reason why it made me feel happy is because too often in life I see people who are able to make more out of themselves but either don't have the means to do it or are afraid to do it themselves. I have a cousin who lives in Senegal, and he's a couple of years older than me, and he studied at Ucla, which is a university in Senegal, as a physics major. He always wanted to study abroad, but because he didn't have the visa, he was never able to go abroad. At some point in life, he actually gave up on the process, and a couple of months after he gave up, he was granted the visa, and he moved to Spain to get his master's in physics. This itself just shows you that anything is possible when you actually put your heart into it and when you pursue your goals. The third way that this film made me feel was sad. The scene that made me feel sad was when his therapist, played by the late Robin Williams, was talking about his love for his wife and her death and how it affected him. This made me feel sad because it went on to show, it reminded me of those that were important in my life. When I was 12 years old, I lost my 30-year-old cousin, who was practically my second mom. She took care of us while my mom traveled back and forth between here and Senegal while we lived there. She died a couple of weeks after she just found out that she was sick. The reason why it made me feel sad is because somebody that was so dear and so close to me had all of a sudden, within a matter of weeks, just was immediately removed from my life. Another woman that had died while I was 14 here in Senegal was my aunt. She was also my second mom while my mom traveled back and forth between here and Senegal, and she died out of kidney failure, and she's been dealing with it since I was a little girl in Senegal. And the same exact day that she found out that she finally got her visa to come to America to receive treatment, that same day she called my mom. A couple of minutes after, she told my mom that she had received her visa. She passed away. And that was my second mom as well. And it just goes to show you that within the film, bad things are always going to happen in life, but you always have to reminisce on the good that has happened. So every single time, me and my family always talk about these two women, we always talk positively about the funny things that have happened with them, the embarrassing things that have happened with them. So in summary, I have told you about the 3 ways that this film made me feel. It made me feel happy, it made me feel inspired, and it also made me feel sad. There is no doubt, there should be no doubt to anyone here that this film did move me. Besides making me feel happy, sad, and inspired, the film also showed me the value of our agency and the value and the ability that we have to make the most out of our life. Because of this film, I was able to recognize that in life, even though bad things do happen, we are always capable of remaining optimistic in life.
Thank you. All right, let's go here. What'd you like?
Okay, it was fine. I liked it. The way she just tell her stories. It was good. Okay, that's it.
So there was a certain fluency to her
Yes,
presentation? Okay, how could she improve?
My name is Sienna. The only thing that kind of pulled me away from it, that you did a really good job with the emotions in your stories, but the card did kind of pull me away from it, and I know you can do it.
Yeah.
So,
Let me talk to you about your speech. I like the improvement I saw. It was very fluent. You had all the parts down, and so you mastered the 7 parts, and you had that in a 7-part outline here. I didn't see your review here or your self-evaluation, but you gave that to me before or something, or what's the story on that? You have it here? Okay, good. Let me give you some feedback. You kind of started with a quote or an observation about the importance of being optimistic, which is always good to talk about, and you tied back to that, and that was fine. I want you to watch how quickly you talk. You're a fast talker. And I'd like you to try to vary that. Slow down sometimes, especially on key things. I'm going to talk about goodwill, honey. Make me feel inspired, be happy, and sad. Inspired, happy, sad. Ooh, zip through. On we go. I think it's Roger Ebert you met, right? You called him Rebert. Okay, it's Ebert, yeah. And you said you agreed with him, and you talked about street smarts and book smarts, and that was interesting distinction to make, and I liked that. On your first emotion was inspired. You talked about people telling you that you weren't living up to your potential. And this inspired you to go on and try harder and do more, right? I wish my only suggestion is to focus more on how this part of it inspired you and relive and re-feel your emotion. On your second one, and I thought this was your best one after the third one, I wouldn't have buried it, I would have made it first, was the one that said it made you feel happy, and this one was about a friend that physics, and then he never got a visa, and then he finally got a visa, and he went to study in Spain. And what I lost sight of was your reaction to him getting the visa and you being happy for him and your feeling of happiness. I didn't get that feeling from you. You didn't feel it again. I know you did feel happy for him, right? So re-feel it again as you're remembering it, and you refill it and you say, oh yes, what was his name, by the way? You didn't say it.
Yeah, his name was Bidham.
Bill?
Bidham.
What?
Bidham.
Bidham. Okay, good. Bidham. We'll give him a name because stories with details are realer. And Bidham, I was so happy for Bidham when he got his visa, and then he went to Spain and he got his master's degree, and now he's on the road to success. I'm so happy for him, and return to your emotions. I did like that you had your little moral at the end of each of your stories. But again, this wasn't so much the story and the moral, but the emotion we were working on this time. Your best story was your third one, about the people that passed away. And again, I would have liked you to have focused on your feeling when they passed. So sad.